Hello, world. Your sister is here, ready, open, and as fabulous as possible. I am your sweet Melanie, and you are now listening to Girl What? So, at the top of the show, I always have my guests introduce the drink of the day. And so you'll be able to get to know them and grab your glasses or cups or mugs, your favorite ones, of course, and drink along with us as we vibe and discuss our topic. Kim, you gonna introduce the drink and yourself?
All right, absolutely. I am Kim, a 22-year veteran in the political arena as a political consultant, but I have the heart of the people. And tonight, I have the pleasure of introducing a really special drink. So, this drink is just in time for the summer. It's made with watermelon, lime, mint, vodka with just a twist of ginger ale. It is tonight's drink, and it is inspired by just the possibility of having a Black woman in the White House as the vice president. So tonight's drink is entitled the VP Pick. Salute.
Yeah.
Hello.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Alrighty, let's go and get started. I'm not gonna hold us up.
That's
We
not.
got a lot to talk about. All right, so the next thing on the agenda is my section of the hour where I do my Mel's Moment. And we are kind of not in the normal schedule because I wanted to do this show in an emergency because I thought it was very important for voting purposes. And so, what I've been up to since you've heard my voice last, Mel's Moment. Okay, so let's see. I think I mentioned on last week's show that I created a group on Facebook called Black Women Who Love Indoor Spaces. So if you are new, you may not know that aside from just being a podcaster, I am a serial entrepreneur. So one of my ventures is interior decorating. I am an interior decorator. I do it for a living. And so I created a group called Black Women Who Love Indoor Spaces because I piggybacked on another group called Black Women Who Love Outdoor Spaces. And I started this group maybe a week and a half, maybe close to 2 weeks ago, and we are already past 1,000 members.
Wow.
And it's a lot of good creative energy happening and Black empowerment. So I'm meeting a lot of ladies who love to decorate or are inspired by my decor and others' decor. So we're in quarantine mode and we all are looking for things to do. So join my group, Black Women Who Love Indoor Spaces. It's the bomb. When we finish decorating outside, now we're coming inside. So join my group. And you can follow my decor gig at Shin Chic Decor on Facebook, Twitter, social media. I mean, on Instagram, all of the above. Shin Chic Decor by Melanie. Look me up. And I do have a website, www.shinshitdecor.com, for my interior decorating boutique. If there's anything you see interested, click the purchase link and I'll make sure you get it. And let's see what else I want to mention. Team Shin Enterprises is the umbrella of my husband. We have the overall or the overarching business that kind of focuses on empowering passion, purpose, and people. So all of the businesses have that mission in mind. And so we have Wolo Party Rental for bounce houses, screen projectors, the movie screen now, because I know a lot of people are doing movie nights in their backyard. Hit us up if you're in South Florida at Wolo Party Rental. And last but certainly not least, Team Shin Enterprises has started their t-shirt boutique. Check us out. It's a way for us to express ourselves. We do have shirts that say vote. We have shirts that say good troublemaker. We have all kind of shirts that cater to our needs. So look us up, find out everything you need to know about our company. Just follow us at Team Shen Enterprises on all social media platforms. And that's pretty much it. Other than I want you to subscribe to this show on YouTube at Girl What. Find all the past shows, this show, when we're finished, it'll be there. And that's it for me, y'all, at the end of the day. And tonight, we normally get into hot topics next, but the hot topics for tonight, everything is politics. Everything. So I'm going to get us started, and we're going to lead right on into our topic, and we're going to close out the show. So the first thing I wrote down, it kind of backs up our drink. And y'all chime in if it's something interesting that you want to comment on. The first thing, Biden is closing in on his VP pick, and that's according to NBC News. There's rumors that he's down to like 2 people. That's what I've heard, but I don't know. I heard, it's down to Kamala Harris and Susan, what's her last name? Come on, put it in politics news.
Susan Rice.
Susan Rice. So that's what I heard. Is that what y'all heard? Y'all gonna be quiet?
That's what I heard too.
I actually heard today, though.
You heard today what, Camille? Oh, go ahead. You pause for a second. You're back.
Oh, I think my internet connection is okay. No, I was going to say I heard today something different, though. I actually heard that the governor of Michigan, Gretchen, what is her last name? I heard that she may be in the running too, that she had like a private meeting. So I don't know.
That's a new name. That is a new name.
She was on the short list. She was on the short list before, but I just thought, perhaps it was, Susan Rice and Kamala Harris would have been the more serious contenders at this point.
Anybody else? No? Move on. Tracy says hi, everybody. I'm trying to watch the audience.
Yeah, but you know what the good thing is, though, is we can't go wrong with either of the picks because everyone is so talented, everyone is so educated, and they're all qualified. So we can't go wrong.
Amen.
Now that I do know.
I agree with that.
Amen.
Yes. Okay. According to Sun Sentinel, okay, so I'm going to get into the logistics of the voting. So you all have a heads up of how they are preparing for COVID. If you're planning like me to vote in person, honestly, my plan was to go on the first day of early voting in Broward. But I'm going to be honest with you all. I decided to wait until after this show. So I'm going tomorrow because this show, I'm hoping is going to help me figure out some of the categories, which way I want to go. But I think this show, we do this show every year. Any election, the 2 at the bottom, Misty and Kim, those are my political, they're always welcome to the Girl Cave. I go to them when I need some politics info when it comes to voting because they're very informed. But anyway, so I'm just gonna go over some things that I read in terms of how the polls are gonna handle the election in ways that ensure that we will be safe. Okay, and then we'll get into the topic. All right. So according to Sun Sentinel, we have no worries really about COVID safety. They have no touch check-in. They have plexiglass between voters and poll workers. The voting booths are wiped down, I guess, very routinely. They don't reuse the pens. So once you use it, if you leave it, they dump it and they replenish with a brand new pen. So by me saying that, obviously there's no touch screen. It's bubble. You're going to take your pen and bubble in your answers, pretty much. They do require that you wear a mask and or a face shield if you have it. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, most of you should know this, but the voting days for Dade County and Palm Beach, they started earlier than Broward. So they started August 3rd was the first day of early voting. And it goes through August 16th. And then, of course, August 18th is the legal election day. Okay, so August 3rd to August 16th are early voting days for Miami-Dade and Palm Beach County. August 8th, which was yesterday, correct, was the first day of early voting in Broward, and early voting ends August 16th. Now, during early voting, you are able to vote at any polling place. On August 18th, you are to report to your designated polling place on your voter's registration card. Everybody clear on that, right? All right. Now, this election selects why are the primaries important? This election selects the nominees that will represent in November elections they will represent for Congress, correct? State legislature and county commission. Political gurus, fact check me now. I'm good? Okay. The next thing. Huh?
Unless there's an automatic winner in the primary and they do not have a challenger in the November race.
Okay, stop. Okay. Okay, the next point, and y'all fact check me. Florida is a closed primary state, which means only registered Democrats and Republicans can vote in their primaries. So if you are registered as an independent, you cannot vote, correct?
Correct.
If you did not register under any party, you cannot vote, correct? Yes? Okay. All right, next. Forms of ID. Y'all listen to this. Show up to the polls ready. Okay? Here are the list of forms of IDs. Photo ID or driver's license, passports, debit cards, credit cards, obviously with your name on it, military or other, here's the other list of identification that you can provide. Military ID, student ID, retirement center ID. I didn't know that. Did y'all know that? I didn't. Neighborhood associations, public assistance, veterans, administrative health, and government employees identification. You can present all of those in order to vote. Fact check. Correct? Yes. Okay. Next, this is important. When you get ready to vote, if you mess up, you bubble the wrong thing, you have a stray mark, don't submit it. Ask for a replacement. Y'all heard me. Ask for a replacement. If you mess up, ask for a replacement. Do not submit it through the machine unless you are sure about your answer. And I think that's it. That's it for the legalities. What did I forget, Camille?
So before we do a deep dive and jump in, I just want to point out one glaring thing that you didn't mention, and I want to hear your perspective on it. So we also have the ability to do mail-in ballots. So I wonder, because this is the first year, honestly, that I have ever voted by mail. And that's only because of COVID, I'm just trying to be safe, I guess. But what is it about our community? I'm just going to paint with a broad brush that feels mistrusting about mail-in as opposed to going to the polls. And especially you, Mel, because I know you've been very, very careful about staying at home. Yeah, like you won't even go to the grocery store. So I find it interesting that you're willing to risk your life to go to the polls. So can you just kind of shed some light on that?
Okay, so for me, and then I'm gonna let the political gurus jump in. For me, I had already told myself when COVID started, I'm going to risk my life on that day. And here's why. I am not going to name names, but I have friends that work for the post office. Mm-hmm. I also am an entrepreneur, and I know I've been shipping things out, and I know what's happening, the delays, all of the above. And I'm going to be honest, I don't trust it. I know, Misty is a big advocate for it. So I don't want to deter anybody from not doing it. Everybody has a personal choice. But she asked me and what my personal choice is. And so I personally feel more comfortable risking my life, showing up to the polls, and not to mention, my mother, God bless her soul, she's no longer here, but she was very militant. And so I have militant blood in me. So it's something about exercising my right physically, showing up to the poll, that just does something for me. So that's what I'm going to do. But I'm not going to do it. Go ahead.
I hear what you're saying, Mel, because I have largely felt much the same way. And just knowing what's happening, or maybe people don't know what's happening, but, we have a new U.S. postmaster that has really been trying to shut down or slow down the efficiencies. And, it's called the United Postal Service for a reason. It's a national service. It's a public service. It should not be run like a business. So, that being said, I was very nervous about actually mailing in my ballot, but I did so pretty early. And I'm just going to say, if anyone is inclined to vote by mail, we have to do it early. Yes. Do not wait to the last minute.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree for sure, because right now, and we don't talk about it very much, but you're right. So the Postmasters General is saying anyone that's voting in the primary, that he recommends that they at least mail that ballot in 10 days prior to the election. Now, the average person listening may say, hey, but what if it's 8 days left or now 7 days? Does it mean that I shouldn't mail in my ballot? Absolutely not. Still, mail it in, but that's the great thing about, having the vote by mail ballots, and also having these early vote sites, because you can take that vote by mail ballot. I did it just, yesterday was the first day. It took all of, I want to say 30 seconds. You drop it in and that's it. The lady said, your name. That was it. And she didn't even ask for my ID. So it worked out perfect. Drop it off.
And by the way, you can also go to a website, because I did, to check to make sure that my ballot was received and posted. So it's the Supervisor of Elections website, maybe, or
yeah, that's an excellent point, but it should say received and counted, because that was one of the questions that I did have, that you may go online and it says received. So does received mean that it's also counted, or they just have it and maybe your ballot may have an issue and they are supposed to follow up to let the voter know, hey, okay, Camille, I received your ballot, but your signature does not match. That's why when you see on the back of the vote by mail ballots, it does ask for your email or your telephone number. It's for that purpose. But a lot of times people just don't fill it out, but they're supposed to be able to reach out. And that question did come up. So what if a voter did not include that information on the back? How would the Supervisor of Elections office be able to contact the voter to say, okay, Misty, we have an issue with your ballot? And what I was informed is when a person submits their information to request a ballot, that they also will have your email. So that is another form of outreach to the voter. Now that is what has been conveyed.
Misty?
She's on mute.
You're on mute, boo.
She's still on mute. There you go.
Sorry, I'm on mute. I'm off now. So what
Turn your
I'd like
volume
to
up a
say-
little bit.
Uh,
You're on mute again.
Mute.
There you are. Still on mute.
and I'm
Okay, there
unmuting
you go.
myself.
That's better.
So what I would like to say, I don't want us to get confused that vote by mail is a new thing in the election process. Absentee ballot is what we typically have heard over the years. It is the same format as if you were a college student out of town and you were registered to vote in your home state, in your home precinct, and you wanted to make sure you exercise that right, and you would ask for an absentee ballot to come to you. It's the same ballot and process if you were in the military and you were away in a foreign country or something like that, and someone requested an absentee ballot. It's the same ballot if you were a senior and you were homebound or could not get out to physically get to a voting site, that you could also ask for an absentee ballot. We are now using the terminology vote by mail, but it's the same. So I don't want to confuse voters that this is some new, and I don't want to, I'm like fading away like a little bit, I don't want voters to get apprehensive about understanding what this is. During the COVID-19, this is an extra precautionary way to vote to protect yourself and others for the spread, to combat the spread of this virus. But this is not a new thing. I have been voting by mail for as long as I can remember. And my reason for is because, like Kim, I am a political veteran in this business, and I'm typically working on election day. And I don't work where I vote. And I don't ever want to chance one day in my voting right process to be rushing to a voting site to be able to vote before that 7 p.m. deadline. So I find comfort in voting early and voting using this method by mail. I know that I can now track my ballot. Before I could not, but I realized that I can also ask as a voter, what is my voting record? Not who I voted for, but my voting record. Did I vote in the last election? Did I vote in the last 4 elections, the last 5 elections? And as a voter, I can get that information, and that gives me great comfort. And so now that we're in this new kind of process, that's really not new, I really encourage voters that if you have received that ballot in the mail, that you fill it out as easy as possible and put it back in the free mailbox, free postage, and get it in, because not only does your vote count, but your vote matters. And so I encourage my girlfriend, my Sarah, my friend Mel, who is just militant about waiting for that Tuesday to vote, if she would just fill out that ballot. And to add to Mel's comment about how the voting precincts are trying to use protocols directed by the CDC and our departments of elections, that you can bring your own pen. Can you see that?
That's a good idea.
Your own blue or black ink pen. If you feel more comfortable in your gloves and in your mask, you can bubble in your own ballot, at the precinct using your own pen. So I just don't want to, I want to encourage voters to vote early and often, as we say in the business, and to trust the system. And I know that that's hard to say or hard to wrap our minds around, but trust the system. Thanks.
Okay, so
one more thing.
Okay, go ahead, Camille.
I'm sorry, just one more point I wanted to make, because I always receive a mail-in ballot in the mail, but I always, except for this time, I always physically go to the polls to do early voting. But one thing to note is that if you got a mail-in ballot and you choose to go to the polls, you must bring your mail-in ballot with you to turn in so that you can then vote physically. Does that make sense?
Wait, say that again?
Correct.
I usually get a mail-in ballot sent to me in the mail. I don't usually make use of it and actually mail it in. I usually go to the polls physically to vote, and I usually go for early voting. But when you go to physically vote and you've also received a mail-in ballot, you have to turn in that mail-in ballot so that they can be assured you're not voting twice.
So it's called surrendering your ballot. But on election day only, if you do not have your ballot with you, you can then vote on that day without surrendering your ballot. But at early voting sites, you're supposed to surrender your ballot.
Okay, so I'm gonna back it up because I guess I'm just so excited about this show. You know, I love when the two of you and also my girl Camille come on the show, but I did not introduce you all to everybody, or I didn't allow you to introduce yourselves to everyone. And I think that's important. We introduced the drink of the day, but you guys didn't introduce yourselves. And I know you, but they don't know you.
I did.
Okay. So then next, Camille, if you want to go. Well, before that, y'all saw a little person in the virtual studio, I guess. That little person is my niece, Riley Pop, and I am very glad that she's here because she may not understand everything that we're talking about, but at least she hears the conversation and the seed is being planted about how important it is to vote. So say hi to everybody. Hi. Okay, you can go back to your tablet. All right, so Camille, introduce yourself.
Yes, hi. So my name's Camille. I am an attorney. I'm a financial advisor with Ameriprise Financial Services. I mostly did, legal work for over 20 years before jumping into this financial planning business just three years ago with my family. But I started out my legal career actually in local politics. So back in 1996, I believe it was. That's how I met Misty too. No, I met you, Misty, in social circles, but we also wound up, we also wound up working at the Miami-Dade County Commission together. So I used to work for a county commissioner, in my past career life. So, the subject matter is important to me. I think it should be important to all of us, regardless of our fields of work or study. And I know Melanie from through the sorority.
Misty.
And hi, I'm Misty Brown, but I want to do a shout out to Kim too, because she said 28 years. I think I wrote it down, Kim. But prior to her 28 years, she too worked in government on the state level. And did you work local too, Kim?
I didn't hear you.
Did you work local too?
No, only at the state level.
So I am a 31-year veteran in politics, both on the federal level and the local level. And I have met all these girls in my vast career, and so politics is what I live, breathe, and sleep with on my mind. And so you're in good company, audience, tonight, because not only are these women are very, these extraordinary women in their own profession, but they also have a political background that you got to get to know them to understand them.
That's almost like a little shade, just a little bit.
But it's okay. It's okay.
Did she just throw some political shade?
Yeah,
in the nicest possible way.
You know how it goes.
You're in great company, is all I'm telling the audience that not only from working in offices in political offices, but we also have worked on political.
A lot of campaigns, a lot of campaigns, and actually me more national campaigns than local. Probably over 25 years ago is when I worked more on state campaigns, but now more issues that are statewide and presidential campaigns. But just kind of leading up to that has definitely been a wonderful journey, and it gives all of us the opportunity to empower our people, empower our culture. And that's really what tonight is all about. Whatever we know, we want to make sure to share it. It's no good if we're the only ones who have the information.
Yeah, so I want to reiterate, I kind of said it before we actually went live. Those of you that are listening, please create watch parties, share this share this podcast, the visual podcast. Try to get it in the hands of as many people that you can, because I promise you, you are going to be so informed. Of course, we're focused on South Florida because that's where we are, that's where we live. But some of the information can apply to wherever you are if you're not in the South Florida area. But South Florida especially, please share this, because I promise you, you're not going to leave this podcast not being clear, or at least knowing where to go to find some information before you cast your ballot. Because like I said, I brought my niece here because I know this time right now is so critical, not just for us, but for our future. So I'm going to keep moving. When we did our run through, Camille and I have been catching up on some movies, some political movies, and we thought it might be good to, let you all know about them so you can look at them and get what you can get out of them. But we have these, like the 3-4 of us, we always have these kind of discussions. We always kind of stretch each other's brains, and sometimes we agree, sometimes we don't. But we love each other dearly, so it's very good conversation, and we wanted to bring it to you. All right, so Camille, the first movie, and I did watch it. I even made Riley watch it today, y'all. I Am Not Your Negro, and I'm gonna say, the gist of the. She said it's a really good movie. I made her watch it, and then she was stuck. But okay, so it's based off of James Baldwin's unfinished manuscript, which was written as like a revolutionary personal account of the lives and successive assassinations of his 3 friends. His 3 friends were Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, and Martin Luther King. Correct. And this movie is a journey into Black history that connects the past civil rights movements to the present of Black Lives Matter. It challenges the very definition for what America stands for. That's the gist of what it was. Camille?
Yeah, so, I stumbled across that. You mentioned it's a movie, but it's more like a documentary, you would say, right? Yeah. It's a documentary for sure.
On Netflix. I didn't say that. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, you saw it on Netflix? Because I saw it on Amazon.
It was on Netflix.
You saw it on Netflix?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We saw it on Netflix.
Okay. Oh, good to know. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's called I Am Not Your Negro. It's by James, it's about James Baldwin. He was a prolific, famous author who was born and raised right here in the US, African American. But he left the country to go live in Paris. And he did that as a young adult. And he just felt that, he just wasn't happy with what he saw here in the States with racism. He was very disturbed by it. And what really struck me most by, watching the documentary is how much, things have maybe advanced in the way of racial equality, but not really, not so much. And so At some point, he had come back. He felt a responsibility to return to the United States. He was very good friends with those famous civil rights leaders that you mentioned, Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr. And although he was reluctant to really get involved personally with the civil rights movement, he could not be detached from it. And so what the documentary, I think the most striking part to me was when I don't want to give it away because I know people probably watch it, but when he did that interview, I don't know, there was someone who was asking like, wouldn't you say that the Black experience has come a long ways now, like almost like to say, why not get over it? I'm paraphrasing, but James Baldwin really broke it down where he said, listen, I don't know if people are racist. I don't know if people don't like me, but I can tell by the institutions that they don't. When I know that I can't, land a certain job, when I know I'm not entitled to do certain things, that's what tells me that racism is alive and well. So I don't need to know personally if someone has something against me, but the institutions themselves are the solid evidence of that. And so that was like the biggest takeaway. I was like, whoa, did it strike you the same way? No?
Yes, that was deep.
Oh, he broke it down. He broke it down. Yeah. It's a really great.
Anybody else? You guys didn't see it, right? So you got to check it out.
No, we haven't had a chance to see it. About how long is it? I'm definitely going to watch it. Maybe tonight.
What, like an hour and a half?
Oh, awesome. Okay.
If that,
hour and a half at the most.
Maybe, yeah. All right, and so then you want to say something, Misty? No? Yes? Okay. You're on mute.
He's on mute.
I would like to say this. I haven't watched it, but following his work, throughout my life, if you remember the popular movie that came out maybe a year or so ago, If Beale Street Could Talk, or I think that was the name of it, was a really great film that played in limited theaters, but it was really good, just about racial tension in a certain era. And if you remember, it was about this couple that met, and then some of the plight of the young man that played the lead role in the movie. But Baldwin's, some of his thought patterns came because not only did he live abroad, but he also lived in North America, or Northeast, and in the South. So he had a perspective of both what the Negro was facing at the time during his years in both places. And they talk about the freedman in the Northeast part of the United States, in New York and Washington and others, and then paled in comparison of the Negro in the Southern states. And we know our history. I'm not going to rehash that, but Baldwin in his talks create a very interesting perspective of the Black plight, where we might not have heard it articulated in more commonly known civil rights activists, such as Martin Luther King or Malcolm X. So I encourage, like him, I'm going to watch it as soon as I can. But I do know about the history of who he was as a prolific novelist and playwright. And some of, we'll know his work more in that, and not so much in his civil rights activism, but he was at that time a key player in that movement.
Very good. All right, and then the next movie we wanted to highlight just quickly, thanks, Misty, is The Family. And I've watched bits and pieces of it. I haven't watched it all the way through because it seems like whenever I watch the beginning, I just started getting mad, so I cut it off. But the gist of what it's about, it's an enigmatic Conservative Christian group. So the family is known as a Christian group. They're known as the family. Wields strong influence in Washington, D.C. in pursuit of its global ambitions. So that's kind of the summary of the family. But it's deep. Camille, you want to elaborate?
Yeah, I actually stumbled across that. I thought it was going to be like a drama series of some sort. I was just looking something to watch on Netflix, and yeah, I stumbled on it, and I just watched like the first 2 episodes, and then I was hooked. It's like 5 episodes, but it's actually kind of more or less a documentary or a docu-series, if you will. It centers around this group. It's I guess it's like a secret society, if you will. So the actual name is the Fellowship, but they're also called the Family. And so it was spearheaded by this gentleman who's now passed on, but his name is Doug Coe. And the way, he's described, he's like the most influential person in politics who you've never heard of. And so he was like, I guess he's it's like right-wing Christianity, was maybe how it started, but it's Doug Coe and the Fellowship or the Family that actually sponsors every year the National Prayer Breakfast in Washington, D.C. that is well attended by all kinds of politicians and business people and journalists and people who just want to have influence over policy in DC. And essentially, it's just, I don't know, I found the whole thing a little terrifying at first, and it left me feeling a little hopeless, which is not like me because I'm like I'm usually like a relentless optimist. Yeah, like I just believe that we can transform anything, especially with our prayer and through faith. But anyway, there's a lot I could say about it. But even if you just watch the first 2 episodes of this documentary, it is so striking. And it just talks about how this gentleman and his group, which really just started about about religion and the Bible, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But just how that seeped into politics now, and how many congressional people and U.S. presidents actually, sought counsel and guidance from this gentleman, Doug Coe. And now, if you watch the whole thing, you'll see how this group has taken things like to a global level. Like they're involved in politics of other countries too, where we want to have influence. And so anyway, there was just one part of it where they talked about like, I guess the question was asked of these young men, what do you think, how did it go? Like, who do you think Jesus would want to protect? Would Jesus want to protect the sheep or the wolf? And the answer was, well, of course, Jesus would protect the sheep, the flock of sheep. And the person who asked the question said, well, actually, no, Jesus would want to protect the wolf or the wolf king, because if you protect the wolf king, then the wolf king will make sure the sheep get in line. And so it was just sort of this metaphor for how like our current president could be regarded as the wolf king. And so for me, it answered a lot of questions about how, how some things just seem to unfold with this particular president that we have in office, and how much support he enjoys by a certain segment of the population. And it's just so profoundly interesting, because it kind of begs the question, are people in lockstep with these policies because of their faith or their religion? So it's almost like these leaders have been anointed by Jesus to be where they are. And, the fact that they are anointed by Jesus to be where they are in these leadership roles means that they can kind of do whatever whatever they need to do, because it would be the work of Jesus, kind of sorry.
I
My
suggest that
internet
everybody
connection is on.
listening watch it. Like I said, after about 2 episodes, I got mad and I couldn't watch it anymore. I had to watch it in doses, but it's good information. Kim, Misty, y'all have something to say?
No, for me, I just don't. I think that she did a phenomenal job in telling us about it. But I know how that can take us in a totally different direction because of the conversation. So I will reserve my comments on that, only because I know that there are people watching that want to hear about kind of what's happening here. But now, thanks to you and Camille, that's something else that I have to watch. So it seems like I have a whole lot of catching up to do. But yeah, I think I'll call you after I watch it.
Yes, Missy.
And I agree with Kim in that how politics and religion don't make good bed fellows, and so although there are elements in our in political society that subscribe to a lot of those things, and I would be interested in watching. I try to hold firm in my own beliefs, and I believe that there is a permissive and allowable will of God. I don't know about the anointed, and I don't want to get, like Kim said, I don't want to get all into that. But it obviously is a good read. And if you believe that, our country is leaning towards some of these things, it surely would be, we should always be knowledgeable and knowing what's going on, within what's going on in our nation. So I'm interested in watching it too.
And again, I bring up these movies just for informational purposes. These are just our opinions. But it is good to be informed. So I'm going to move on. Y'all know before I get into the topic, I always try to find a quote that'll lead us in. So I found a quote. And I hope this takes us into what we need to talk about. All right, so listen carefully. Y'all ready? A politician, a man engaged in party contest, must be an opportunist. Let us give up saying that word as if it contained a slur. If you want to win in party action, I take it for granted that you want to lure the majority to your side. I never heard of a man in his senses who was fishing for a minority. That quote is from Woodrow Wilson. So I thought that was a good quote. In our run through, we kind of talked about some things and how, we have to be mindful when we're choosing a candidate that, it's kind of their job to sway. It's kind of their job to sway us, the voters one way or the other way to get their vote. So we're going to get into the ballot for Miami-Dade County. I don't have the Broward ballot. I tried to click on the PDF all day today and it's not opening. But we are going to talk about some slates we got in the mail. And we're not going to tell you which way to go. We're just going to put it in the air of what's out there. And so y'all have something to say about that quote? No? Nobody?
I don't like the word opportunist, and you described it as that it shouldn't be looked at as a negative. I have very my own personal biases about just using that word, and that people that tend to use politics as a opportunity to push a message or a platform by pushing on emotions of people, but that's just Misty Brown talking. So I have to look up what the context of Woodrow Wilson's quote was to kind of understand it fully. but I am just really not for someone that would use the opportunity to run for office based on a emotional pulse of the elected I'm using the word those that vote. Just say that, the voter. I really believe that there are social ills and other things that are going on in our country, in our nation, and in our state and local government that we should pay attention to. But using the word opportunist, that kind of bothers me. But that's just me.
Kim, nothing. Nothing. Okay. All right. We're gonna
not about the quote.
Okay.
Not about the quote.
Okay. All right. We're gonna move on. Right now we're gonna get into the ballot, and I actually have the ballot, so I'm gonna pull it up for Broward Dade. Audience, please, on your comments, if you have any questions, frustrations, anything that happened while you attempted or went to vote, please drop them in the comments. But so I guess the main thing that most of us have experienced is that we in the primaries, especially as a citizen, and I'm speaking from a citizen's point of view, we get these slates, right? And we've been getting these kind of these Black community focused slates, and slates kind of gearing us of who to vote for and what to do when we show up to the polls. So there was one that I found in my mailbox. And Camille, I don't know if you brought yours.
Are we on the Dade or on Broward? Are you starting with Dade?
This one is Broward. This I got in my mailbox. Okay. I don't know if anybody else got this in their mailbox. Yes. Camille, did you get this? This is the only one that I got in my mailbox. Okay. And apparently there was an article that came out that basically said that this that was put into our mailbox, it was done fraudulently, meaning no one really approved this, put it out, but for some reason it just showed up in my mailbox. I don't know how, I don't know why, political rules, maybe you can explain it, I don't know.
Okay, well, this was placed in your mailbox because you are a Black voter. So when running for office, all candidates have the ethnicity of the voter. So that's why if you notice, there are, it's called targeted mail. So some people will receive something just because they're African American, because they are Hispanic. So the things that you receive are things that you should be able to maybe relate to. Just kind of think about some of the what is normally called direct mail piece. So that direct mail that you have received, and I have a whole kitchen table full of them, is it kind of talks about maybe endorsements of that candidate. It will be pictures with other Black folks that you probably can identify with. So they figure if you see that there are other folks in your culture that is supporting a particular candidate, that is to help you in your decision making. So that's how it kind of lands in your box. You're special. You're very special. So that is exactly how you end up with that. So you may go to your Hispanic neighbor and they probably have a different, they have a different mailer. The message may be the same, but maybe the endorsements are a little different. The pictures may be a little different as well. And when you do receive slates, when you don't know exactly the originator of it, it kind of goes back to what we have always said. Depends on who gave it to you. In this case, it came from the quote unquote postal service, right? So we really don't know what's going on with it, but you just have to be very, very diligent and read, study, do your own homework. People, we've said that this is nothing new. You hear it every election. Every election, we always say that. But of course, we know that we have family members and friends. They're going to call you, Mel. They're going to call Missy. They're going to call Camille, and they're going to say, "What's the slate? Where is the Wakanda slate?" That's what they're going to
I
ask.
got that
for,
text and that call.
huh?
Lots of them. I got the text and the call, and like people hit me up on my inbox. Where's the Wakanda slate? So
yeah, so Wakanda, if you all are listening, that slate needs to come back by popular demand. I know Misty cannot wait. She probably will be the first person to get that slate and share it with a minimum of 100 friends.
Absolutely.
I'm just saying.
I do want to also say, you're right, Kim, but I do want to also say that on a lot of the mail pieces that you get, if you look at the very bottom on the back of something, it'll say paid for by typically, and it'll tell you what organization or what group or something. Typically it says it. With this one, if it doesn't say it, Kim is right. That was probably just a targeted piece of mail. That, but if you, sometimes there are a political advertisement that that you will receive, and you'll see at the bottom that it's paid for by a certain group. And you can look up the
They have the group here. They have the group here. This is paid for by people of principal PAC, but this is not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. So what that means is that PAC decided that they're going to put the individual, so it's not necessarily the campaign or the candidate who co-signed this. They decided on their own that this is the group of people that they want to endorse and share it with the voters.
So I would say with these slates, what works for me, again, I'm speaking from as a citizen. I am not in the political arena. I do this show because I want the community to be informed as much as possible. But I, like most of you, I tend to depend on someone that I know personally, that I completely trust, that can kind of tell me, because they're in it, or they've done it, or they've been voting long enough, or they've lived longer than me, to know, and guide me what I should do. That's one method of mine. My other method is to, thankfully, with the virtual life, we were able to see the debates, the panel debates, live. And I have posted them on this Girl What page. So, after it's over, if you scroll down, or throughout the week, or before you go vote, scroll down my page, and you'll see a lot of the different candidates on their live feeds, talking, getting posed questions, answering the questions. So I am gonna post the one that I trust, the slate that I trust. But again, I encourage you to, do your research. Make sure you have somewhat of an understanding of who you're voting for and why you're voting for them. But I do want to talk about the hot races. Oh, well, first, before I get into that, can you explain to the public the differences between the ballot? I was going to pull up the day ballot, but to be honest with you, it's very extensive. And I think it would be more important for people to understand what's the same, what's not the same, because everything is different depending on where you live. Correct?
Yes, but when you speak of the day ballot being extensive, because when you look at the sample ballot, it has both races. It has Democrats and Republicans. So that kind of makes it look, longer than what it actually is, but it's definitely not long at all. It's actually a short ballot in Dade and Broward. I know in Broward, I would say less than 20 races. So it's just front and back. Remember, we've had ballots where they've been 6, 8, 10 pages long, and that takes a long time. And so when you think about elections, when we would have ballots so long, that's why the wait time would be 2, 3, 4 hours, because people were taking a long time either trying to read through that ballot go through all the pages, but this time it's just like this front and back. I would say it took me about, I'll give it 3 minutes, to actually fill it out. It was really, really short.
I'm trying to see if I could pull it up. But the heart races though. What's the heart races and what are the similarities? Like, what is everybody going to be voting for, regardless of where you are? Anybody want to tackle that?
For the primary race, those ballots are going to look different because we're a closed primary state. You're going to only have, and the doorbell ring. Kim, I want you to pick this up just okay, but you're only going to have things that are part of where you live, the areas of where you live, who your state senator is and your state representative is, and then you'll have local races on those ballots. If it's abroad, there are no ballot questions. Those will come in November if there will be any on the ballot. But these are more race-driven and they're local. So you're not going to see like what you would see in your November race.
Okay, so I pulled the ballot up, y'all. Kim, can you see it?
Yes, I can see it. It is the Republican ballot. So what you want to look for is the blue border.
Right there.
The red border is the Republican ballot. There you are. That's the Democratic ballot.
Okay, so again, if you're registered as a Republican, you're going to see the red. If you're registered as a Democrat, you're going to see the blue one. Right? I'm trying to see if I can blow it up some more because it's kind of small. Let me see, 200. All right, there we go. All right, so it's broken up by, and Kim, if you can explain what we're looking at.
So in Dade County, you do have a lot of small seats, but I believe you said you wanted us to focus on the
hot races.
Yeah, the hot.
But I just wanted them to see, the actual ballot. This is what it looks like. But again, do your research, figure out, the candidates that work best for you. Talk to a trusted source. I'm gonna post the slate that I'm going with. I'm not saying do what I'm doing, but I have to share my information. So those of you that know me, trust me, by all means, go with my slate. But do your research. Know what you're voting for at the end of the day. Okay, so the hot races.
I will turn some of it, Misty and I can play back and forth. I would say the first hot race is the state attorney's race in Miami-Dade County. Camille, I see you shaking your head. Absolutely a very, to me, anytime there is someone challenging an incumbent that's been there for a very long time and knowing exactly what is occurring in the world and in Miami-Dade County, that is definitely a race that we should not sleep on. It is no way that anyone of color should overlook the state attorney's race. So we do know that we do have a veteran in office. The incumbent is Kathy Fernandez Rundle, and we have an African-American woman, Melba Pearson, that is running in that race as well.
And I'm gonna say that's who I'm voting for because I'm a citizen.
Well, wait a minute now. You are not like.
I mean, if I were in Dade County, that's who I would vote
okay. For. I was about to say.
If I were in Dade, if I were in Dade County, that's who I'm telling my friends in Dade County to vote for. Put it out.
Okay. I hear you. Okay, I was just wondering. I thought you said you were voting, and I said
I made a mistake. But if I'm,
but I can attest. I can attest to there is a state attorney's race in Broward County as well.
Yes,
And
we're
so,
excited
and
about it.
they're different from the Dade County race, which is just 2 candidates. There are several people running for the state attorney's seat in Broward County, which is just as, the seat is the seat. And, but it is really going to say a lot about what we were talking about earlier, the pulse of the community, where people tend to then rely on not only trusted friends and slates, but they're also going to rely on their own emotions about what this race actually does for people in general. And if you're African American, you're thinking about yourself and your race and those that look like you. And if you're other races, you're going to be thinking about those same things. And so these are emotionally driven races. And they should be, in part. I used to tell my kids when they first were eligible to vote, I said, I want you to think about voting like you would think about marrying someone. It needs to speak to you. It needs to make sense. It needs to align with your own philosophies and your, your thought processes and your morals and your values. All those things need to play a part when you're starting out in your voting process. But a lot of people vote based on emotions, and I try to steer away from that, and we really need to vote based on facts. And that's very hard sometimes. But we really need, to your point, Mel, to do some research about who is running, why they're running, what their platform is, and what they believe that they can do. What they believe that they can do weighs far more greater than what they may have done in the past. And so, Camille, as an attorney as well, like if you would just chime in on what your thoughts as we're talking about just a contested race. You don't have to say who, what, when, and how, but just about this race in particular.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I wasn't going to speak as an attorney. I was just going to speak as a regular voter. My process in the way of educating myself around candidates that I'm not familiar with, when I get all those mailings in the mail, all the campaign flyers, I just compile all of them, in a big old pile. So that was my process this year. I just had a big stack of these flyers. And then as I was getting ready to fill out my mail-in ballot, I just separated all of them into, okay, this is the state senator's race. This is the state representative race. This is the state attorney. This is the clerk, supervisor of elections, I think it was. What else was there? There was and then all the judges, and even though I'm an attorney, I'm not really familiar with all the judges. So I had that going. Then I was also going to mention that earlier today, there's a program that comes on here in South Florida. It's Today in South Florida. It comes on at 11 o'clock. I believe it comes on, is it Channel 10? I think it's Channel 10. Channel 10, right. And it was phenomenal today. They had like a whole bunch of candidates on, even in the race where, you'd have the opponents. So they had Catherine Fernandez Rundle on this morning with her opponent. I don't live in Dade, so I'm really not familiar with that race. Although I used to work for the state attorney's office when I interned there many moons ago, and Catherine Fernandez Rundle was there. So she's been there a very long time for sure. But she was being asked some tough questions, just about the lack of prosecution as it relates to police brutality. There's never been an officer that's been charged, by her office. And, she had her own positions on it. She talked about, the medical examiner's office being an independent body that, found that there was no evidence of a homicide in a particular case or whatever the case may be. So there's just different ways that, as just a regular voter, you can go about trying to educate yourself on some of these issues. So I agree. It's either, read the mail-in flyers, you get a sense of, what are the positions of these candidates or what do they say their positions are. Maybe tune into a local program like Today in South Florida. Of course, read the newspaper. That's a thing of the past. But don't just read Facebook. Go. Please don't read Facebook. Go to a newspaper, a true source, your local newspaper, and then ask trusted people in your circle who do vote and who maybe pay attention to these kinds of things and try to do the deep dive. I think it's really important. We have this right and we shouldn't squander it. So
let me just say, and go ahead, Missy.
I do want to say this. Although I work in my most of my political connections are there. I live in Broward County, and there's a state attorney's race also in Broward County. I wasn't familiar with all of the candidates, and there are more in Broward candidates than there are in Dade County. I asked a trusted friend not only their opinion, their thoughts about it. Could they send me a slate? Can they tell me the name? I remember meeting someone. I remember hearing a political forum, but and now I'm in the business, so I'm outing myself. I wasn't familiar with a particular race, and it is a awful thought if you're especially in the business to give a blind vote. To give a vote that it's not a vote of confidence, it's not a vote of change, it's a vote of ignorance, and not ignorance isn't dumb, but ignorance in non-knowing. And so I took it upon myself to ask for information. And so I would say, not only in that first contested race in Dade County, which I'm so happy I don't have to vote there, but in Broward County or wherever you're voting in, across this nation, if you're listening in, that you really tried, if you don't know, if you're just getting 10 million mailers like Camille, and that you can't figure it out, or you can't, like I went online to see who was running and I couldn't get images, which is crazy, but that's a sidebar. I couldn't even get images of the candidates. I relied on a trusted friend that gave me a slate or information about others that I admire and respect in the community, that they felt this was the best candidate. So I hope that, all voters will kind of do that kind of due diligence.
And so all the ladies on here, if you watch my show, y'all know I'm the candid one. They're very politically correct, but I'm going to say this. Don't do like I used to do. Look for the black name, the black last name, and that's the one I'm above. Don't do that. Do your research, especially now, especially what we're going through now. It is so important for us to make informed decisions for our best interests. People, even of color, may not have our best interests. So understand and know as much as you can know about these candidates, because right now, I'm not going to speak for everybody. Again, this is my opinion. We need change agents, not people that run their mouths. We need people that are going to have our best interests and make stuff happen. So keep that in mind. Please don't go in there just looking at people's last name and trying to figure out if they're black. Please don't just go looking up pictures and see if you see a black face and that's who you go for, because you might vote wrong. I'm just being real. You might vote wrong. They're laughing because they know I'm gonna say what they're not gonna say, and I'm okay with that. I'm a citizen, and I'm just gonna keep it real. But I brought this show on because I want to explain to the public, to our Black community, right now we need to stop making blind decisions. We need to know
what? I think that is a show in itself. That is a show totally by itself, because it has been said that we're like that. We want to say, hey, do your homework, make sure that, look, every white man's not your enemy and every black man isn't your brother, right? We've heard that, right? And so we want to go and we want to vote for who is the quote unquote best candidate for our people. And some would say that strategy hasn't been working. That's why we have 45. And so that's a whole totally different, because if people voted based upon someone who's qualified, someone who's competent, someone who knows what he or she is doing, we would not be where we are. So they decided to say, hey, he is the white man and we want to make America great again. And so because we wanted to make America great again, look what happened. So that to me is a totally different conversation for another time. That would be my point there.
Any other hot races y'all want to talk about? I know a hot one in Broward is the sheriff's race.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna get Israel back.
Like potato hot.
Huh?
It's like I'm in the hot, like they're like
that one is a hot potato.
They're like
right
in the hot seat hot.
That one right there is a hot one. Again,
as a matter of fact, while I'm hot, when we were talking about 45, I thought I would bring the real president in, invited him.
Go ahead, Kim, stand up. Model for the people.
I just want to make sure
model for the people.
Real president, the real president.
Yeah, model for the people.
Just wanted to say, just wanted to say that, and thank God for. But you're right. So that is definitely a very, very hot seat. What I do know,
that's hot. Mm-hmm.
Man, I don't know. What I do know, I think I'm just going to be quiet on this. I'm going to send it over to the other ladies so I don't get myself so much in trouble.
Go ahead. What you think about that?
No, not for what I think. I think that what the word is on the street.
What's the word on the street? I was gonna give it to Camille. I was trying to release
let Camille take it. Know what? I'm going to
the VP. No, I want to hear. I'm going back
to the VP pick right here. I'm good.
No, Kim, tell us what's on the street. I'd be interested.
Well, audience, what's the word on the street about that race right there? What's the word on the street?
Because it goes right back to what we just came out of, that conversation about race. So yeah. I mean, it's like the perfect segue. Perfect segue, because what's happening is you have, if you're really paying close attention to the slates that's out there, that the slates put out by a majority of the African American elected officials is not supporting the current sheriff.
Yeah. Right. So that's one of those, y'all, like I said, I'm gonna put the slate that I'm following, but that's one of those, the heart races that I'm naming are the ones that y'all have to really do your research and make an educated decision you feel.
But for the record, they did say it is one. They did say it is one. For the record, they said it is one African-American elected official supporting him, and then all the others are not.
Right.
And this is coming directly from, I'm not hearing it in the street from someone, but I'm talking about those that are actually elected and saying this is their position.
So I would just say, so I'm one of those people that I've just been very busy in life. And to be honest with you, I have not paid super close attention to that sheriff's race or the position of either candidate. I have some just general familiarity with both of them. But both of them were actually on that show this morning, Today in South Florida. They were both being asked very tough questions. The part of it that I did hear was Scott Israel was defending, he lost his job after the whole Parkland shooting, right? And he defended himself by saying that that police officer who made the decision to not run into the school to, assist with that shooting, that was not a failure on Scott Israel's part. That was his defense. He said, that was not a failure of my department. That was a failure of courage on the part of one particular officer who was then reprimanded, and, whatever the story happened with that particular police officer. So he had that to say about that particular incident. Scott Israel was also asked about, I guess there was maybe police brutality that he faced, or an allegation of police brutality that he faced personally years ago. And his defense to that was that he was a very young officer at the time. It had something to do with spring break and the stress of spring break, and that the allegations made against him were not on the part of a Black person, I guess. I don't know. He was just basically saying that I guess maybe there was an incident, and then he was also, what did he say? That he was it was determined that there was no wrongdoing, I guess. But the allegation did not come from a Black individual, is what he said. And then, so that was the part I heard about him. And then as it related to Greg Toney, I'm sorry, I didn't listen to all of it because I was in the kitchen cooking. But Greg Toney, what was his position? He, actually, I didn't really hear much of what he was talking about. I mean, I know at one point what got my attention was he used the N-word in the interview, and they quickly shut it down. They were like, "Oh, well, we'll have to fact check what you just said." There was some allegation he made against someone who used the N-word as it pertained to him. So I don't know. It's a very heated race, and I say all this to say that everyone, has an obligation to really, delve into the issues on their own, and perhaps maybe even next Sunday, the candidates will be back on that show, or not. Maybe there's somewhere else you can find it. But
again, I posted the panel debate on my page. So when this is over, tomorrow, throughout the week, scroll down, listen to it for yourself. That's one of the ones that I posted. But just make an educated decision at the end of the day.
I agree, and I also want to add, the last sheriff was removed based on a very tragic event in American history. That if we could take it back, we would, and there were some great things that came out of that. That we have some new legislators that that are doing an awesome job in looking in these issues. But I do want to point out that the current sheriff was appointed. I do want to say that, appointed by the current governor. And although he looks like the people that you see on the screen, does not necessarily mean that he reflects all of our views and all of our positions on in law enforcement. Let me say that. But in this particular race, I can't rely on just what I feel. This is the type of race that you really need to ask a trusted friend or a trusted slave, or law enforcement people that are in the business, that do the work every day, that work in the ranks with these people. I mean, we have to stop, like being, just go with, give it to Mikey, he likes it, he eats anything. We need to stop that mentality as it relates to our vote. It's just too precious, and it means so much to so many people, not only those that find themselves on the wrong side of the law, but those that find themselves on the right side of the law, as we have seen played out in America, that with law enforcement agents taking law in their own in a very different and violent way that that is shameful, you know. So for this race in particular, I'm like him. Who I would vote for, and I live in the area, but I am going to rely on trusted people to give me their advice on this particular.
And you make a good point. And then I'm sorry, Ms. I'm trying to speed up the show a little bit, but you make a good point. And if you have friends, family, you know, loved ones that are actually in law enforcement that you trust on that race, ask them who they voting for. People that you trust, ask them if they had a choice, which one would you vote for? Which one would you love to work for at the end of the day, right? Okay, so that's the sheriff's race. And then the last hot race we're going to bring up is the mayor's race in Miami. That's a big one, right? There's a couple big ones in Miami. Y'all want to elaborate on those? The names? Not your opinions, but the names. No. Yes.
I mean, it's as you said, it's a lot of races, and you have a lot of former commissioners and current commissioners running in that race. So you do have a race of all politicians. With that being said, you have I would say candidates that served in the capacity before, and then you have people looking at, hey, there's never been a female mayor. This is attractive to us, and maybe some of the other stuff is more of the same. So it's interesting of just kind of hearing the different conversations and what people are talking about. I think that is very helpful, even for the candidate and the campaign, to know exactly what people are saying. And I can say that I know those are the things that I've heard regarding that race.
I would like to point out that the race for Miami-Dade County Mayor, the race for Miami-Dade County Commission seats 1, 3, and 9 are all being vacated by politicians that are termed out. So these are open seats. And I want people to understand, when there is an open seat, this gives you an opportunity to really delve in to every candidate, what they are saying, how that speaks to you, their vision. Does prior experience matter? Sometimes it does, sometimes it does not. But we really need to be very mindful of these races, because again, they're open seats. They're not running against anyone. They're running for to the general public voter, and they should be able to speak to what resonates with you, whether that's business, whether that's crime, whether that's housing, whether that's anything that resonates to you. You should be looking for those types of things in the candidate that you want to represent your interests in these. Mm-hmm. So where I would also say, trust a reliable source. This is an opportunity for you to do your own homework in these races. So although the mayor's race is very contested, and I have my favorite, but that's not for this program. However, if someone asks me, I can very well articulate why I would, vote for that particular person for mayor, why I would vote for a particular person for commission. But these are open seats. So this is a great opportunity for the average voter to do some homework, listen to some trusted friends, get a slate from some trusted people, and vote.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say this. Well, before I say this, there was a question in the chat, Kim, for you. It said, you stated that Black elected officials in Broward are not supporting Tony except for one. So they want to know, Does that mean that the rest are supporting Israel or that they're neutral? And I think that's a good question.
That they are supporting Israel.
That they are supporting Israel. Okay, thank you for answering that question. So I'm going to speak from a citizen. When I listen to the panels that I mentioned to you all that are live, I posted them on my Girl What page because I wanted it to be a reference point for people when it got closer that didn't watch it. But for me personally, this is my opinion, y'all. Based on the racism that we've experienced, based on, the George Floyd situation, this has caused me and maybe others to really examine who we have in office, who's been in office for years, who have actually been change agents or just bench warmers, if that makes sense. So I'm looking, for me personally, I'm looking at, okay, if you've been in office for 30 years, what have you done for me? That, like Janet Jackson, what have you done for me lately, basically? Or are you just a bench warmer? And if you're a bench warmer, I personally am trying to get you out. I'm just being honest. If you are one that is not afraid to speak vocally, to fight for what's best for my interests, fight for what's best for education, meaning education when it comes to the future, my niece, I'm voting for anyone that I feel is going to get in there and ruffle some feathers, or somebody that's already in there ruffling some feathers, shaking up the pot for my best interest and not afraid to speak up for our best interest. That's me. I can't speak for nobody else. So just because you've been there for 30 years, that don't necessarily mean that I'm going to vote for you. If I've heard your voice and I've seen you make some noise and fight for some change, then I'm going to keep you there. But if not, if you're a bench warmer, I'm trying to get you up out of there. And this is me, I'm not opposed to some new blood. When I saw young people out there putting their life on the line for my freedom, putting their life on the line for what matters to me, I'm paying attention to the 20-year-olds. Back in the day, it was the 20-year-olds that made stuff happen. That's me. I'm only speaking for me. But again, I'm doing my research. Soon as those panels were live, I've been digging them up, looking, being more intentional about feeling comfortable that when I bubble, I feel comfortable with what I did. So that's my piece. Anybody else? And I'm going to post the slate that I'm using. So, but anyway, we're going to wrap it up. Anybody else have something to say? No? Did we cover what we needed to cover? Nobody? Audience, I hope this helped. I'm going to post my slate. Follow Girl What on all social media platforms. Don't come for me. I'm a citizen. But I'm going to help those that aren't informed. I'm just being honest. Don't come for me. I'm going with what I trust, what works for me. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm suggesting that you do your research. But for those of y'all that's lazy and you love me and you trust me, I'm going to have it. And I'm going to leave it at that. Kim, can you play Souls for the Polls, please?
Of course. We ready? I'm ready.
We have a song that's going to get y'all amped.
No matter who you are, no matter where you're from, man, woman, boy, and girl, go out and vote. Come on. And all brothers, sisters, cousins, mothers, family, and friends, it's time to come together. Now or never. Get up and go. Souls to the polls. Let your voice be heard to the polls. Let know what you know. Yeah. For the generation. You got a voice, come on. Souls to the polls. Let your voice be heard to the polls. Let know what you know. For the generation. Put your hands up and say. Souls to the polls.
And there it is. At the end of the day, make sure you go vote. At the end of the day, vote 2020. Thank y'all for joining us. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm sorry it was so long, but I wanted to make sure I got this message out. Share it. You can snip it, whatever you want to do. Take the information to your friends. We love y'all. And I always end my show with the scripture, Colossians 1:16. For by him were all things created that are in heaven and that are in the earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. All things were created by him and for him. At the end of the day, it's all about God. At the end of the day, we got to do what we have to do. We have to use our power, but keep God in mind when you do it. And that's it. And so y'all gonna say it with me? You have been listening to, for the last hour and a half or more, to my baby, Girl What? All right, let me end it live. Thank y'all for joining online live, and we will see y'all next time. Don't talk, y'all. Hold on one second.